What's up, guys? It's Latitude back with another installment of How to Valorant. These guides are guided towards more newer players and possibly less experienced Counter-Strike players and just people who are new to the tactical shooter genre. Today we're going to be talking about smokes and their effective use and not so effective use. So we'll get right into that, and I'm going to try to keep this video shorter than the last one, but go into as much depth as I can. So, smokes. A lot of people know that you throw smokes down, they cover vision. Oh look, I can't see anything. Perfect. Neither can the enemy. Great. Now, I think smokes are some of the most poorly utilized abilities right now in Valorant, and that's because people don't exactly know how to use them. They understand the concept of what a smoke does, but they're not quite sure how to use it. What people get is they're good for just obscuring vision, which denies the enemy information pretty much. Now that's good, but there's also a lot. There's ways to use the smoke that will maximize the effect that they have. So just like last video, I have a bunch of things written out here, and in no particular order, I'm going to explain what smokes do. So the most effective use of a smoke is to slow down enemy pushes. What this means is that if you throw up a smoke, say right here in garden,
Smokes down.
the enemy who's standing in long will probably not be too thrilled to push through that smoke, since they're going to come out and be disoriented, not know where anything is. Maybe there's nobody on site, maybe there are people on site, maybe there's somebody in the smoke. There's a billion different questions they could be asking themselves to throw themselves off. And that way, it kind of slows down pushes. And plus, nobody wants to be the first person dead, and usually the first person that comes out of the smoke is the one that dies. So, a lot of people know how to use smoke in that way, because they see, oh, they'll be standing here long, okay, they see a guy, okay, time to throw down a smoke, boom, smoke's down. And we just chill. That guy's probably not going to be pushing through that smoke anytime soon. So people get that. But what I see is people not throwing effective smokes in that regard. A lot of people will just say, okay, there's people guarding, let's throw down a bunch of smokes in here. And they waste all three of their brimstone smokes, or, both of their omen smokes, whatever. And that's good that the area is smoked off, and it is disorienting walking through three different smokes. Like, if we look here, okay, I don't know what's going on here. There's so many different smokes. I don't know what's going on. That's good, but you've wasted so much utility on smoking that one area. A more effective smoke is to kind of make it so it just barely peeks out into the site. That way, they've already have this area. As soon as you smoke off that door, they already have this area. So if you smoke further in, then it kind of denies them the area in the smoke, even though they have this whole area. They can only use whatever's outside here. If we look through the smoke too, oh, wrong door, oops. So if we look at the way the smoke is placed as well, if they're coming out of the smoke, they're kind of being forced to clear all these different angles at once. And meanwhile, defenders only have to clear the one angle, or a couple of angles here. On the left of the pillar, right of the pillar, in the center. Way easier than having to cover 50 different angles. So in that regard, it's kind of slows down pushes. Now, smokes are also they have to be used to limit enemy vision into an area, and as a result, deny area. So what that means is that, say I'm on attack here in hookah, right? Now, if they hear us hookah, everybody on site knows that they have to be looking at this window. So that means somebody in custody could be here, somebody in CT could be looking at us, somebody on the by the tub over there, backside, could be looking at us, somebody in elbow could be looking at us, people in garden are going to be looking at us, people underneath here are going to be looking at us. So in that regard, it's good to use smokes to deny enemy vision, and to deny area and limit the enemy vision by setting them up in a way that reduces, or that covers angles that could possibly peek you. So with these areas smoked off, it means that somebody's probably not going to be pushing through that, or that smoke, and so you just have to worry about under window and garden for when you go onto site, which is way easier than worrying about all these different angles. So it can obviously be used on defense as well. So if you hear people coming into hookah, or say like you're going for a site retake, or you hear people hookah and garden, you can just drop smokes in hookah and garden, and you can you deny all this area on the site, even though you give up a little bit of area in garden. Now, if you want to deny area further, like more aggressively, then obviously you can drop smokes in long, and you deny the push completely, and they're limited to fountain
Right here.
and mid there. Effective smokes also don't impede the vision of your teammates. So if I'm sitting here and I'm watching hookah, and say there's a brimstone over an elbow, and he's just like, okay, they're hookah, so I'm gonna put a smoke right there. This smoke does not help me at all, because now I can no longer look into hookah and give information or get picks or whatever, and I'm forced to move. This is bad because now the defenders also have one less angle to worry about that they have to focus on. They can just look at me here. Whereas if they're coming out to hookah, they have all these different angles, like we said before, that they could be shot from. So that smoke right there that impedes enemies, or that impedes your teammates' vision, you're really just helping at the enemy in that regard. You might as well be just feeding them kills. So try to think before you put down a smoke and try to maximize the effective area and minimize the amount of vision of your teammates that you're blocking. So good smokes also expose the enemy to multiple angles while disabling their ability to clear angles one by one. What this basically means is, we talked about it before, but I'll just reiterate it and go more in depth about it.
Smoke's down.
If I put in a smoke here, this is considered a good smoke because when an enemy comes in here to clear this, he has to push out through the smoke, look right, look left, and just keep clearing all these angles. He has to clear every single one of those angles by himself, and he can't do it one by one. One by one means that they can't just, okay, cubby clear, or sorry, left side cubby clear, back cubby clear, okay, garden corner clear, flowers clear, okay, bag clear, excellent, and then just move over here, okay, that's clear. They can't do that. Because they're forced to push through a smoke,
Smoke's down.
that puts them exposed to many angles at once. So right away, stepping out of the smoke, he's exposed to pot, he's exposed to flower, he's exposed to back sight there, he's exposed to cubby, he's exposed to pillar, like everything. So you want to try to put down a smoke that forces an enemy to walk out into multiple angles, because clearing an angle one by one gives the enemy an advantage, and we talked about this earlier. Valorant's a game about advantages and reducing the amount of advantages your enemies have. Another effective smoke, obviously,
Smoke's down.
anywhere where the smoke kind of peeks out a little bit into the site, because that way the defenders only have, you know, one angle to clear rather than a potential many. Now, an example of a bad smoke for, if you say you're defending garden, right? The enemies are pushing up garden. So an example of a bad smoke would be a smoke like this.
Smoke's down.
Now, why is that? Why is this a bad smoke? This is a bad smoke because, yes, it impedes vision, but it also impedes a variety of different angles where they could just sneak into. So they can easily sneak out the side here, clear elbow, and come along the side, okay, clear, and then clear like that, right? Whereas, because they have the smoke as cover, whereas if the smoke is like this, and they come out, you know, like we talked before, too many angles to clear at once, and they're pretty much dead with that. I'll talk about another bad example. Some people do this weird thing where, I'm trying to think of where I can show it here. Okay, so say you're getting rushed and you want to just completely, okay, boom, throw down all these smokes. That way they get completely demoralized and don't want to push through that. This is another bad smoke because, you know, the enemy can walk through the smoke, sneak out to elbow, you won't see them, and then they can flank your whole team. So you want to throw down smokes that don't allow enemies to sneak into other areas on the map. I know there's one up here in mid, where, say if I throw a smoke right here.
Smoke's down.
So if I'm watching from hookah, I assume, okay, I'm pretty much safe, and I only have to worry about down here. But easily somebody could sneak up on this side when you're not looking, and just chill right here, wait for the smoke to clear, and they have an angle on you. So just be careful where you're putting the smokes, and try to think about where an enemy could sneak in if the smoke is up, and make sure you clear that area as soon as the smoke goes down. Good smokes also don't have exploitable gaps, so like we saw with the smoke mid, if I put it a little bit too far left, then okay, I'm fine on this right side. Nobody's going to be shooting me from this right side, but as I go further to the left, there's a gap right here that people can easily shoot me through. And it actually makes it really easy to shoot you because, You know, it's one angle that they have to cover, so the enemy will just be looking at this angle. Oh, there's your head, boom, shoot you. Right, whereas, I'll throw it down again just to show the better example.
Smoke's down.
Whereas when you come out, as you walk over here, you could be shot from here, you could be shot from there, you could be shot from there, or from over here. You know, they have many different angles in use, so it's kind of harder. Just a little addendum on gaps and smokes. If you frequently smoke off a certain area, then sometimes you can leave a tiny gap on the side of it so you can easily hold a cheeky angle with like an op or something. Might get you some free kills, and just be mindful of people using the same strat against you. Make sure you're checking both sides of the smoke. And lastly, smokes can be used to cover rotations. So if I'm in this corner, say I push up hookah, okay, there's a bunch of guys here, I'm running, and then let's say I get one pick and I come back and I try again, but I'm poorly positioned, so they kind of rush me into this corner, and I'm forced to chill here. What I can do is I can throw down a smoke
Smoke's down.
just to get me the heck out of here, so I can just cover that rotation, come over here, and get onto site safely. So that's a good example of covering rotations, but it can also be used for, say, if they're on site and I need to, I need to do a retake here. Okay, so maybe I'll just throw a smoke right
Smoke's
there.
down.
That way I don't have to worry about that angle. Come over here, go over around elbow and flank them from that way. Obviously, try not to make noise. And the enemy still has to worry about me being here. And just for the extra precaution, you could just block off both
Smoke's
angles.
down.
That way they really don't know if you're in this cubby, in this area here, or in the box, or you're looping around. So that's how smokes can be used to effectively cover rotations, just by making the enemy wonder where you are and not know exactly where you are, because of all the things we talked about before. Like, they're gonna be afraid to push that smoke as well. Usually people that push smokes are very courageous. So anyways, we're going to be getting into some tips now. I'll show you some actual footage so we can see effective use and not effective use of smokes. So here we have a push onto B from on split, and I try to throw a smoke heaven, but I botch it by throwing it too low. I also throw a smoke back site, so we don't have to worry about back site or somebody shooting us from there. So Crypto comes out, clears heaven, and then he comes into point and sees the raise. He doesn't have to worry about looking back site, and neither do I, so I can just focus on killing the raise. And I go for the plant. Sage pushes down through Brimstone smoke, and Breach and Omen push onto the rafters and just die instantly. Then I get the plant off while my teammate kills the last remaining player on their team. So here's an example of the triple smoke that Brimstone can throw. So Raze is pushing up garage and manages to take down the jet, and Brimstone's cornered, so he's kind of panicked and decides to throw all three smokes down right in front of him. Raze pushes the smokes and Brimstone takes her down, but makes him easy pickings for Phoenix. So this is a good example of using smoke to limit what the enemies can push into. For context, this is later into the round. As you see, there's 40 seconds left, and I see Sage show her face A. So immediately what I decide to do is I take out my smokes, and I smoke alley to stop them from just rushing alley, and maybe scare them a little bit. And as I do that, I come to reunite with my team. So because I smoke alley, it kind of more motivates them to come to heaven, and Raze ends up doing that and falls right into my trap, and I take her down. So here we have an example of a smoke that was good but could definitely be optimized. So me and Raze both have ops, and the attackers are in the garage and the spike's down on our side of the garage. So we're both looking into the garage spamming. Cypher decides to stand in front of my shot, which is never a good idea. Brimstone's smoke goes down at the end of the tunnel, which is okay because the attackers still need to push through that tunnel, and we're spamming it so it works. But if it was closer to our side, then if they decided to rush through, we could cover different angles and not all be bunched up here on this one area for them all to just mow down. So it worked here, but it could definitely be optimized. So here we have an example of a good smoke followed by two bad smokes. I see them pushing mid, and I throw down a smoke to stop them from pushing as fast. And Breach gets kind of confident, so he decides to push through, and I dink him, and then Omen follows him, and then Brimstone smokes vents and mailroom. Now, why are these smokes bad? If we take a look at the minimap here, we can see that we have a crossfire going on between Brimstone and Jet, which means that it's a 2v1 engagement against the Omen. So by Brimstone throwing down the smokes in vents and in mailroom, it actually completely gets rid of this advantage and puts the advantage in the Omen's favor, since he can now take two 1v1s. So what happens here? Brimstone's forced to push through his own smoke, gets dinked in the back of the head where if Omen had an AK he'd be dead. Luckily Brimstone turns around and manages to secure the kill, and then Raze is hiding in his smoke as well, but Brimstone manages to take her down as well, luckily. So these are bad smokes, but they manage to work out in his favor. So this is going to be an example of good smokes. I smoke screens and I smoke A rafters. That way the enemy has no vision into the alley. And then Brimstone smokes A ramp, which is good because Omen here blinds me, but he's not going to push through that smoke into our team. So as we come out here, we see that Brimstone also re-smoked A rafters, which is good because Omen's smoke does not last as long as Brimstone's, and it lets us get control of the point and push on. So to wrap this video up, I'll just throw a final clip of me screwing up 2 smokes, followed by Omen spanking me like a newborn baby. So I hope you enjoyed this video and hope you found it informative. If you want to see more videos like this one, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm hoping to complete this series and really make it easier for people who are newer to Valorant to enjoy this game. It is really fun, I've been enjoying it, but it's also pretty tricky to pick up. Anyways, see ya, peace out.